Auburn Gardens in Fenham was built between 1909 and 1934. Number 50 Auburn Gardens was built towards the end of that process in 1933-1934, and it was built by a company called the Fenham Estates Company, and their signatures appear on the original deeds that determine the style and character of the housing. The Fenham Estates Company began as the Northern Allotment Association, and they bought the Fenham and Wingrove and the Fenham Hall estates in 1898 to develop as a residential suburb. Joseph Wakenshaw, its lead member, was a staunch Wesleyan Methodist, and he regarded the provision of allotments and open space as the antidote to the overcrowding and poor conditions of the inner city slums. He wanted to provide working men with a plot of land that they could afford to rent, whereby they could grow fresh produce, fresh vegetables, and have a good diet. Consequently, the first operation in Fenham by the Allotment Society was leasing land at Nunsmore to create the Nunsmore allotments. They leased 12 acres of land off the corporation and subdivided it to create 120 gardens or allotments for working men. However, the Society's aims broadened, and by the 1890s, certainly the late 1890s, they began to look at the opportunities of buying whole estates and developing these for suburban housing development. And that's why the Fenham Estates Company was created, to purchase the Fenham and Wingrove and the Fenham Hall estates in 1898. Now, these people that bought these estates were small businessmen, tradesmen and shopkeepers who were purchasing these estates as an investment. They were combining their limited savings to buy land which they could then develop for profit through housing. Covenants were laid down to ensure that the housing that was built conformed to strict guidelines in terms of quality and appearance. The houses were actually built by a lot of small building firms, family firms, who introduced their own particular styles. So when you look at Auburn Gardens, for example, there are a number of different styles just within that small street, because the houses themselves were built by a number of different building companies. Having purchased the estates in 1898, the Fenham Estates Company laid out the roads, most important of which was Wingrove Road, the main route connecting the West Road to Ponteland Road. The old Fenham Hall, that dated from the 18th century, survived, and today it's student accommodation for Newcastle University. Auburn Gardens was laid out in plots for development, and number 50 was plots 132 and 133. Prior to the development, it was open fields. Fenham Hall Drive was the main drive to the hall, a tree-lined avenue as it continues to be today. Much of Fenham Hall Drive was also developed for housing. That housing was completed by the 1930s. Today those houses remain. And walking around this area, it's easy to identify the original buildings that were built as part of the development of the area as a suburb. And the 1930s really is a crucial period for Fenham, because that's when Fenham acquired not just shops, but also a local library and a swimming pool built 1937-1938 to provide education and recreation facilities for the local residents. Today, anybody driving along Fenham Hall Drive will come to St James and St Basil's Church, surely one of the most distinctive churches in all of Newcastle, built in the 1930s in commemoration of boys that were killed in the First World War. Another church, St Robert's Church, although planned for the 1930s, wasn't built till 1954-55. But together, St Robert's Church and St James and St Basil's Church provide a focus for the community. Today, Fenham continues to be a vibrant suburb within easy reach of the city centre, surrounded by open moorland and interspersed with allotment gardens, as the Northern Allotment Society envisaged all those years ago.